Hey guys, my name's Radslav and today I want to share with you one extremely powerful technique that will let you skyrocket your productivity and impact, and that is frankly my favorite topic in the whole world. But here's the thing, most people hear productivity and they're thinking spreadsheets and corporations and other boring stuff. This is far from the case. The way I see productivity is your capacity for impact in life. Your productivity is the extent to which you can produce positive, constructive, useful action. So the technique I'm going to teach you today is called benchmarking. It's not a common practice in any way, and that's one, sad, and two, a great opportunity for you and me. So what is benchmarking? Well, the first step to benchmarking actually is when you begin to pay attention to the amount of time that you spend doing any one particular task. Most people actually never stop for a second to consider the amount of time they spend doing different things, and that, let me tell you, is a huge mistake. No matter if it's your own business or your job at a certain business or some sort of personal project of yours, you have to pay attention to the amount of time that you spend, to the amount of time that you pay when doing any one particular task. So how do you do that? How do you pay attention to the amount of time that you spend doing different tasks? Well, there's a standard practice called logging. So whenever you do something, and it works best when you deal with repeatable tasks, you do it once and then you write down, you track the time that it takes you and you write it down next to the task. And so that gives you a reference point for how much time this task has taken you the first time without trying to be fast. And it allows you to next time to work on your process in such a way that you can reduce the amount of time that you're gonna spend when doing the task in the next iterations. So again, this works best with repeatable tasks because when you're doing something for the first time, you don't have really an idea how much time it's gonna take you. So it means you can't manage it. You don't have much control over the first time. But when it's a repeatable task, you begin to notice the patterns, you can work on your process, you can optimize your efficiency, and that is how you can compress the time frames, you can compress the amount of time that you're going to pay ultimately for each consecutive iteration of this task. But don't think that it only works with repeatable tasks. It works with any task really, but you improve your process and you become more efficient as you work on optimizing your performance with repeatable tasks, but it's gonna make you more efficient and faster when doing single tasks which are not repeatable as well. Now at this point, most people will object and say, well, I cannot predict my task. Well, I cannot predict how my day is going to go. Well, I cannot predict my workload. Let me tell you what, you can. Basically, that's the reality. You can predict your workload. You can't predict your schedule. You just haven't tried. You're not that special, let me tell you that. Most people, you're not doing only different and new things. Each day you go to work, you do different things, but there are certain things that are the same. You have the same responsibilities. So more often than not, you can't predict to a huge extent. You'll be surprised actually to what an extent your life is predictable. And that is good. By the way, that is not a bad thing, because when it's predictable, it means you can plan. It means you can work on your process and the way you're gonna approach each task each time. And that is what allows you to cut the time costs, basically. Now, next time as you do a certain task, instead of letting it take you whatever amount of time it's gonna end up taking you, try to beat your previous time. Try to beat your old time. It's a race against time, and it's a race against your past self. And that is how you can become better each time that you do something. But it begins with paying attention to that, with considering it, with considering the amount of time that's going to take you to do anything. And why wouldn't you consider how much time you're paying? It's no wonder that the verb we most often use when it comes to the time spent on certain things is spend. We spend time. Why do we spend time? Because we have a budget, we have a fixed, finite budget of time, which you know the famous adage that time is our most precious resource. If that is true, well, we have a finite budget of time, which, by the way, I think we should easily just call life. Our life is our fixed budget of time that we have here, and we're spending it. So think about that. Each time that you do anything, you spend a little bit of this finite budget, and it's not, you cannot refill it. You can only deplete it, really. So it's every bit worth it to consider the amount of time that you're gonna spend when doing any single task. Now, so let's say that you're working on something like building web pages, writing copy, creating web ads, doing haircuts if you wish. Now, you're doing this again and again and again and again and again, and maybe one web page is way more complex than another web page. Doesn't matter. Don't make life needlessly difficult and complex for you. Make it like, okay, so I have a simple web page and I have a complex web page. Two categories, two different benchmarks. As you compress and compress and compress the time frame that takes you to accomplish a certain task, you get to a benchmark level. A benchmark level is something that you can measure against. It has to be something challenging. It has to be something aspirational, like I'm gonna make a simple web page complete, fully functional in 5 hours, for example. And so that is your benchmark time. Your benchmark time should never be the time that allows you to comfortably finish a job, to casually, easily, in a relaxed state, accomplish a certain amount of work. The benchmark time should be difficult to get, should be difficult to achieve. You have to be like on your A game. You have to feel the pressure. You have to be fast-paced. Like, whoo, man, that's fast. That's hard to beat it, to get to the benchmark time. That is what a good benchmark reference time has to be. And so you have to do that for basically every type of task that you do. Get to the benchmark level and know what it is. And this way, each time that you do it, you have you have a benchmark, basically, you have a target to reach. And that is how logging your time, paying attention to that, and benchmarking allows you to compress time frames and become way more efficient in the way that you spend your time, way smarter also as you spend your finite resource of time. And this allows you to work on this whole process. If you don't sit down and if you don't pay attention to the clock and if you don't write down the times, you cannot improve your process. You cannot improve it reliably. Peter Drucker, the famous management guru, says, what gets measured gets managed. So what this means is you measuring, writing down the times and working on them is what allows you to manage your time effectively. So why would you do all that? Why would you log? Why would you benchmark if you don't have your boss like right over, looking over your shoulder and breathing down your neck? You have to do it without your boss looking over your shoulder, right? So why? Well, think about top athletes. Think about business figures, famous entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs, for example, but pretty much every athlete. They have coaches, they have mentors, and these guys are kicking their butts all the time and demanding more and more and more and more out of them. Like, you can be Michael Jordan, best ever, GOAT, whatever, and you still have your coach like being like, come on, man, don't be a lazy ass bitch. Do it faster, faster, faster. Faster doesn't mean cheaper or worse, by the way. It means the same, even better, and even faster. Constantly struggling towards better times and better performance. That is how you succeed in business and in life and achieving higher performance. That is why it's key to log your times, to think about your times, to have your benchmarks, and to always aspire to reach and to beat your benchmarks. That is why it's all about high performance, achieving peak performance states. That's all about it being the best. If you're interested in that, if you're interested in high performance, if you're interested in performing better than all the rest, this is why you have to exercise the technique of benchmarking. So what else can you do about it? Well, you can join me at ratslavo.com and book your first coaching call. I also offer you a free coaching session just to get a taste of what is possible. I can show you a lot more techniques and we can plan and strategize together so you can beat the shit out of your competition and become the best at what you're doing. So ratslavo.com, I wait you there.